My name is Regent and I'm in year 10. Today I will be interviewing Mr. Mike Fairburn, the General Music Manager of Sony Music in Middle East. So how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to see you. So, Mr. Fairburn, you have studied history in high school and you also went on to do your bachelor's in history as well. So, history and music seem very different. So, what really brought you to a job into the entertainment/music industry?
It's a good question. It doesn't make sense, right? History to music.
Yeah.
You know, I think I often think about that, you know, because I've been working in the music industry since the year 2000. So as soon as I left university, I was fortunate enough to get a job in music in London. And so how did that happen, I guess? So first of all, I always loved music. I always loved creative people. I like expressing. I did drama at school, like I was an actor. I got my school colours in drama, so I would act and I would write plays and I would perform. And I couldn't play any instruments, but I loved people that played instruments. And I loved music and I loved the entertainment of it. And so even though I did history at university, I did history because I was very good at history. I mean, I just chose something that I was very good at, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do something at university, I should do something that I'm good at, right? that I like and I enjoy. And then when I left university, I thought, well, how can I do something work-wise that I feel really passionate about? You know, I felt a kind of hunger for working in a creative business, and that was really how I ended up in, you know, the motivation. That was the motivation for it, you know.
Oh, okay. So you enjoyed doing history, right?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved history. I mean, I kind of realized when I was about, I realized when I was about 13 or 14 years old that I was really good at the arts. So I loved art, I loved English language, I loved history, I loved debating, I loved writing, I loved drawing and painting and things. So I kind of decided, I did the GCSEs, which obviously back then I think I did 10. I did German. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with German, but I did German language and a few other subjects. And then I decided at 16 that for my A-levels and for my higher education that it had to be within the artistic subjects, you know, rather than the sciences, you know. So that was the reason. And history was something that I just love. I don't think you can. By looking backwards, you can see your future, right? So I think history plays a really important part in all of our lives. If we look back, you can see where you're heading, you know, and I think I've always believed in that, and history was a nice subject to learn about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you left history to get into the entertainment industry, which is now worth $2 trillion today, with millions of artists trying to get into the industry. So we all know that getting into the entertainment industry is a big struggle. What advice would you give to an aspiring artist who is trying to enter it?
Such as yourself.
Such as myself, yeah.
I think it's brilliant that you play so many instruments and that you're passionate about that. And I think passion's the most important thing, right? And I think for us at Sony Music, our entire company DNA, the only thing that we care, the thing that drives all of us, you know, is to serve artists and to help artists be as successful as they can possibly be. So we have 6,500 great people all over the world. We have offices in 60 plus countries, and we wake up in the morning, we go to bed at night, and that's all we're thinking about all the time, is to how can we help artists. And I think it's a combination of elements to help an artist get through. To answer your question, what's the advice? I think number one, be passionate, be committed. Number two, don't give up, because there'll be a lot of bumps on the way. But you know, failure's a bruise, it's not a tattoo, it won't stay with you forever. It's going to bruise you for a little bit and then it's going to clear. So you've got to be resilient, you've got to be passionate, and you know, if you've got those two things and you've got the talent, you'll be successful. People will find you, people like ourselves, you know, people will find you and people will help you and people will want to work with you. You know, I think people like me and our teams, we want to work with people like that. You know, there's a real connection between us as a company, as people, and artists that have those characteristics. You know.
Oh, it's just like a family, and that's some commitment, actually.
Yeah, it's a good point. We call ourselves a Sony Music family. You know, and we want our artists. You know, our office, our buildings are their buildings. You know, our equipment is theirs. You know, so today I'm leaving here. We've got 2 big producers coming from Egypt to my office. We've got cakes and flowers, and they're going to come and hang out with us, and we're going to connect, right? And I think we're in a creative industry. You know, connecting emotionally and connecting with people is actually what the music business is about. You know, it's not as straightforward. You know, if we're in construction, you're going to build a building, you've got a plan, you know how you're going to build a building, right? You know, it's pretty straightforward. You know, if you follow your plans, you're going to build the building. In the music business, it's a creative business, so it's about emotions and how people feel and confidence and giving people the feeling that they can achieve things. If you motivate somebody enough, you know, artistically, and you help them get over the trouble that they're having or the bumps in the road, they'll be successful. And I believe that. You know, I believe in people, and I believe in supporting people and motivating people. Because what's the worst that can happen, right? You know.
Yeah.
You know.
So now that we know that you're a very respectful person and you treat everybody in your career like your family, obviously music connects everybody. It's a way of communication through emotions, feeling, etc., etc. But what are some of the major life lessons that you have learned in your career?
Okay, it's a really good question. I thought about this last night a lot when you sent me the questions, actually. And I do think about it, and I think you have to think about it all the time, because I think self-reflection is really important. You guys don't need to self-reflect, don't worry, you know. But I think as you get older, you'll realize that it's really important, actually. So I think self-reflection is really important. But I think that there's probably 5 things I would say to you guys, right? And I think number 1 is be kind. Have kindness. You know, you're all very kind people. You're all very kind people. I can see that. You know, your friends. You're kind to your parents. You're kind to your family, your brothers and sisters. Although your brothers and sisters will annoy you all the time, of course. That's their job. But you need to be kind. Number 2, you need to listen. Listening is very important. And I think I've learned, number 3, as you move into work, you see, when you start your first job, if I think to my first job, I thought I had to know everything. I thought the reason I got my first paycheck at 23 years old, I thought I was the king of the world, right? I thought it was amazing. I was working at a music company in London. Brilliant. But all this pressure, now I need to know everything, and you don't need to know everything. You're not the center of everything. If you listen and learn and take in as much as you can from the people around you in business, you'll be far more successful, and people will look to you and think that's somebody that is collaborative. And this leads to the 4th thing, which is about being a team player, right? Working for your team, not for yourself. And that's a really important thing. So, you know, if you're playing team sports here at school, I'd see some basketball shirts over there. Your principal's a big basketball fan, you know, but team sports are so important, and that will set you up for your career as well, because people like myself, we want to bring people into our companies that are team players. So I think that's the 4th thing. And the 5th thing is don't worry. Don't worry about things. You know, don't let things get you down. You know, there'll be bumps on the way, but like I said before, bruises, failures are bruises. They're not tattoos. They won't stay with you for long. Trust me.
Okay, that's really motivating to all of us who are trying to have a good future in life. So, after you did history, you have started working in music and entertainment in London. But then, that was before settling in the UAE, which was in like 2007, if I'm right?
Yeah.
So, what made you want to settle in the UAE?
I've always been a traveller, always been adventurous. You know, it was a good opportunity to set up a company in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi has always been very ambitious, and at the time wanted to do a lot of concerts and Formula One and all these things. And you know, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to be part of the team to create those experiences for people, you know. And that was a really great opportunity. Things were great in London. Things were going very well with my work. Things were great. I remember the conversation with my boss she was not particularly happy about it, but we're good friends and still are, so she understood. And I think also my wife had grown up in Oman. My wife's parents lived in Saudi Arabia and Oman. So for her, we weren't married at the time, but she immediately said, well, yeah, you know, that'd be interesting. Let's go back to where I grew up, you know. So I think culturally there was a connection as well within it. So I think it came down to adventure, wanting to take some risk. You know, I just felt at the age I was at, it was a good opportunity to do something different. And culturally, the person that I was with was really wanted to do it as well. And I think that's also a big part of those decisions. You don't make those decisions for yourself. And it seems to have worked out okay, so I'm glad I did.
Now I'm going to move on to the rapid fire questions. So like these are...
I've got a question for the guys, actually.
What?
Can everyone put their hands up if they've listened to a song today? See? Back to his question earlier about how important is music. Okay, now put your hand up and tell me if you picked that song or if you just heard it somewhere. Who picked it? Very good. Good to hear. Good. Okay. Music fans. Love
so, should we move on with the rapid fire questions?
Of course, sorry to.
All right. Who is your favorite music artist?
Kanye West.
Oh my God, I'm a Drake fan.
Drake's great.
By
the way, these are personal choices. Kanye's not a Sony Music artist.
I can see that.
But I mean, Kanye, you know, college dropout. I mean, I was just unbelievable. The guy's a genius. Genius. Anyone disagrees? Leave the room.
Oh, I think I should leave. So, do you prefer Apple or Android?
Apple.
Okay. Apple juice or orange juice?
I asked my Otis this morning. He said apple juice. I'm going to go with apple juice.
Okay. Thank you. If you chose orange juice, I don't know what I was going to say. So, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay. I thought you were more of a tea person.
Both, but coffee. 15 years in the Middle East has to be coffee.
Okay. So, who's your favorite actor/actress?
Actor's Denzel Washington. Actress is Meryl Streep.
Okay. What about what streaming sites do you use?
All of them. It's my job.
Okay, but if you had to choose one.
I can't. I'm on camera.
Oh, okay. Favorite music genre? Kanye, so rap.
I think hip hop. Yeah.
Good taste.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's close though. There's rock as well, because I grew up with rock music. I was talking to one of your teachers about the Smiths and a lot of northern indie music, Oasis, Stone Roses, Kings of Leon. Rock's a big thing. I think maybe rock actually.
Okay.
But I love Kanye, so it's a tough one.
So, favorite instrument now?
Guitar.
I'm a guitar player. Grade 5, Trinity.
Good. Is he good, guys? Is anybody?
So, Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, did you enjoy that rapid fire question?
Yeah, it was great.
Are you lying?
No.
Okay. Now I'm gonna get into business, finance,
Gosh,
questions.
the tough ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so since the onset of streaming platforms, how has Sony Music adapted its financial model, especially now that some users don't even have to pay for music on some platforms?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying before about serving artists. You know, so Sony Music has always been about how do we create systems and frameworks that help the artists. That's it. That's our job. That's the goal. So whether it comes down to the A&R process, the investment in music, the financial modeling, the way that we negotiate our partnership agreements for our artists' music, it's always the central priority is, does this serve our talent in the best way possible? So I'm not going to go into details on those financial models, but that is the principle that guides us. Now, Sony Music, there's a couple of things that we've done over the last couple of years, and we've been industry leaders. The first is we have set up Artist Forward, which is a real-time payment application, real-time payment mechanism for all of our artists globally. So now, Sony Music was the first record label in the world to do it. It means that artists now can open an app and they can access all of their royalty statements, all of their financial statements real-time. They can see exactly how much money is coming in, where it's coming from, and they can manage their finances. So we invested a huge amount of money in delivering that system to our talent, and that's really to help them and make sure that we've got the most transparent, artist-first financial system and due your care to their business as we can. I think the second thing that we've done, 2 years ago we launched the Social Justice Fund, which is a $200 million fund that we launched for communities, charities and initiatives around the world to help communities that were affected by not just COVID, but also social issues, right? So charities, foundations, and that $200 million fund has been allocated and distributed around the world, and we're helping hundreds and hundreds of charities all over the planet. And that's linked to your question because it's about our DNA is our artist DNA, and our artists and ourselves as people, we care about communities, we care about culture. Music is an integral part of culture, and music can change the fabric of culture, and it can also help to create diverse and open environments. And so all these financial initiatives, all these kind of funds that we've driven and set up are with that goal in mind, is to improve societies, improve culture, and help to develop a more inclusive environments all over the world, and we need that now more than ever, really.
Okay, so now recently Sony Music has partnered with Roblox to join the metaverse. What inspired this move into the metaverse, and what are your plans?
Okay, first thing, I don't know who knows what the metaverse is? No, you don't. If anyone in this room claims that they know what's going to happen, including me, then they're telling fibs, right? You know what fibs are, right? They're not telling truths. I think one of the to try and answer your question, I think the reality, the metaverse presents. So if you think about the last 30 years, again, back to history, looking backwards to help you look forward, right? Sony Music, we've always been at the forefront of format changes and adapting, and we've been quite resilient around that, right? So if you think about cassettes to CDs to vinyl to downloads to streaming, and now we've got this new Web 3.0, right? So for those, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, now we've got Web 3.0. So for us, I think for all of the industry, we're feeling this out. In all honesty, everybody's feeling it out. And the good thing about it, there's time. It's something that we've got time to work with it. We see it as a huge opportunity, obviously, a big, exciting, new, innovative space. We've got incredible teams in Japan and in the US and all over the world working on some unbelievable things. We did a fortnight event ourselves here in the Middle East with Hamahi, the Egyptian artist. He performed in Fortnite in October, the first Arabic artist to perform in Fortnite. It was a great success, and I think you're going to see a lot more of those things come through from us and our artists in this space. But how it develops is exciting because it's the unknown, and we're excited about that, because it gives our artists new opportunities to connect with fans, to expand their earnings, and to grow their profiles. And that's really, again, what Sony's about. We're about serving our artists, Who's a gamer here? Okay. Question. Do you listen to music when you're gaming? Do you turn Spotify on or one of the services?
Yeah.
You do, right?
Yeah.
So you turn your game volume down, you put your okay. Okay.
I do the opposite.
This is a good focus group, by the way. Sir, can we keep them all here for like 2 hours? I can just ask lots of questions. Yeah.
I do the opposite. I keep the music down and the game volume up.
It's really interesting now. So gaming and music are just locked, right? So the amount of music consumption that comes through gaming is incredible. Obviously, you've seen the Roblox announcement, and then there's Fortnite, but also if you look at just PlayStation Network, obviously one of our sister companies. And so we're in this exciting time for you guys where 25 years ago, a job in the music business was a fairly narrow lane of jobs. Now what you've got is this huge expanse that's got music as a backbone, but there's this huge expanse of fields that you can move into because music's linking all of these different services. We're as close now. So Sony Music is part of Sony Japan, right? Sony Group. And we have Sony Pictures, we have Sony PlayStation, Sony Electronics. We used to have Sony Mobile, or there is still mobile, but in a different format. And there's Sony Music. So we're all under the same umbrella, and we're as close as we've ever been because we call it convergence, right? Music and gaming and film and soundtracks are all coming together. So when they release a film, Spider-Man, you've got a Spider-Man game, you've got a Spider-Man soundtrack, right? And then now you'll have a Spider-Man avatar, and you'll have a Spider-Man metaverse activity, and it all comes together. So for you guys, I want you to, as you get older, and for these cats at the front, it's going to come at you a bit sooner. Music is no longer just sign an artist, release a record, and promote a record. There's all these other opportunities, and that's an exciting thing for young people coming into our industry. So I think the scope of it's really exciting now. I think it's the most exciting time, certainly since I started work. And I think if the opportunities were where they are now when I was 20 years old, just amazing. It's incredible, really. I mean, the range of roles. If you go on to billboard.com and just look at the job listings in the US now, the type of roles in music, it's so exciting. So if you like coding, if you like drawing, if you like graphic design, if you like building things, if you like gaming, if you can play records, there's all these jobs out there. There's all these different fields. It's really fun. It's really exciting, I think, for young people now.
Speaking about games, Sony Music, like you mentioned, have hosted virtual concerts through Fortnite, mainly because of their partnership through Angami.
No, not through Angami.
No,
not through Angami. It's through our partnership with Fortnite.
Through our partnership with Fortnite.
Yeah, so Sony Music. So we own 5.5% of Fortnite.
5%?
Of Fortnite. Yeah, we own about a $1.5 billion stake in that company.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
1 billion?
1.5.
1.5?
Yeah. You okay?
Big numbers. Big numbers.
Good numbers, yeah.
Yeah. So they obviously those concerts in Fortnite have raised over around $1 million. Am I right?
So there were two things that we did. The $1 million, that was a separate event. So during COVID, if you remember, there was a terrible explosion in Lebanon. And so it obviously decimated Lebanon, billions of dollars of damage, lives were lost. we have a lot of Lebanese colleagues and friends and families were affected. So we partnered with Angami and we did a series of concerts, virtual concerts, with our international artists and our Arabic artists to raise money for the Red Cross that was helping, the Red Crescent that was helping in Lebanon. So we raised over $1 million. So that was the virtual concert. It's called Sounds of Beirut. It was an important thing for us to do, you know. And just an example of us giving back, really, you know, trying to help communities and do a bit. And then the second thing is Fortnite, which is more of an opportunity to bring our Arabic artists into more actively into the gaming world. And for Hamahi, who's an icon in the Arab world, he's one of the biggest artists ever. It was a good opportunity for him to talk to young gamers and, you know, younger audience. So, and it did really well. 10 million gamers watched his concert. It's pretty cool. Travis Scott got 44 million, which was great. And
I attended it.
yeah, great, man. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We all did, yeah.
So, you are also part of Sony Music's Asia Pacific Committee for Social Justice. How do you think music plays a role in ensuring that we are socially responsible?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, all the hands that went up this morning, I think you can see that music's probably if I asked you all if you'd watched a movie this morning, or if you'd watched a TV show, or if you'd knitted something, or if you'd looked at a fashion magazine, I think fewer hands would come up. When you ask somebody about music, all the hands come up. And I think it's the one thing that connects everybody. And the reason I think it connects is because lyrics, song is a very powerful force. If you look back again to if you think about the great movements in history of the last 50 years, whether it be social change or political change, music and artists have always played a really big part of that, and music and song has played a big part. And I think whilst we don't politicize our music and we don't politicize our artists at all, we also recognize how responsible we are as a community, as an industry, to use music as a force for good and a force for change. Now, the Social Justice Fund is an example of us using our finances as a force for good and helping to support charities with not just finances, but also with ourselves. Like, we actually spend time to help these charities. We go and we do things with them, and we give them our artists to promote what they're doing. So I think music's obviously I'm really biased here, obviously, but I think music's such an important force for good in the world. Yeah.
So there's metaverse this, virtual that. So everything is now digital. As you can all see, there's
I asked my daughter the other day. So she's doing the the virtual reality. She's got the
Oculus.
Yeah. She's in a game, and then I said to her, we were having a chat and we got into conversation. I said, but doesn't it bother you, the virtual and the real? How do you know what's virtual and what's real? So we're talking about augmented reality, right? We're talking about things like Snapchat filters and the augmented reality, everything, the virtual and physical. And she said, why? I said, what do you mean, why? she said, why? Why does it matter? And I was like, dude, that's a crazy answer. Like, she's 11. Like, I don't know if you guys, like, she was just saying, what's the problem? And I think that's for the world, that's where it's not a problem, it's a positive thing. I think that's where it's heading, is pretty much, you guys are probably okay with that, right? I mean, your parents might not be, but I'm not that okay with Ivy being on there all the time. But the point is that the world's going to become metaverse 3.0, AI, augmented reality in the real world. It's getting closer and closer. And, I think there's a lot of people don't mind. And that's crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. But it's crazy.
So there's everything obviously virtual, but what were some of the struggles and strategies involved when going like fully digital from like...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Let's be honest, it was tough. I mean, it's tough to go from a business where you know, so back 1999, the Backstreet Boys sold 15 million records in North America in 1 year, 15 million physical records. Now, a physical record costs you a lot more money than a download and a lot more money than a stream. So to go from that, and within 5 years' time, there was no more vinyl, essentially, and it was downloads, and that was it. So it was a big change for the music business. But again, what Sony Music's been really great at is very resilient, very nimble, and we've shown that throughout. And I think the one thing that's helped us to weather that is because, you know, our priority's always been around the artists, right? Always been around the music and the artists and about creativity and supporting that community. And so formats will always change. You see, that's the thing. Formats will always change, right? You know, so when vinyl dropped and in came downloads, you look back and go, well, yes, you know, there was also change from cassette to CD to vinyl and downloads to streaming. Now the metaverse is coming in, now TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. All of a sudden, everybody's consuming music through gaming and different platforms. There's all this consumption happening. So formats will always change. I think we've always been very good at recognizing when that's happening, pivoting, you know, self-learning, building our skills and our teams to take advantage of these format changes so that we can help our artists and their music continue to be successful. There was some tough times for sure. You know, in the 2000s, it was a challenging period, but the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it's been a really great growth cycle for the industry. The music industry is in very good health now, and that's thanks to streaming, really, and all you guys putting your hands up and streaming music and gaming and all the different areas. Yeah.
Okay, so this is sadly coming to the end of the interview.